para corregir a tiempo, con mano firme, para el trabajo, para la conducción de grupos.
Estimates indicate that actually Venezuela has the most underground resources of oil-related product that could be brought into the market. The Venezuelan oil is tricky to work with. It's thick like molasses, if you will. It's extremely viscous, and it requires special handling in order to process into those high-value transportation fuels like gasoline and diesel that economies need. A credible roadmap for political stability in Venezuela is the ultimate prerequisite. It's the number one thing on every company's checklist. That's true in countries around the world where they operate. But if you take a case like Venezuela, that's had a lot of adversity for oil and gas companies. It has a history of autocratic rule, stolen elections, macroeconomic failures, and especially to the point of oil and gas, resource nationalism and expropriations of oil and gas assets. When you put all that together, that's a really difficult potential playing field. For the time being, it's very important to remember that the Trump administration is maintaining this quarantine on Venezuelan oil exports and on the whole program of sanctions against Venezuelan persons, assets, entities. And that's part of their pressure campaign to try to morph the regime into a more pro-US stance. Until that changes, we'll have naturally fewer Venezuelan barrels making their way into global markets. That affects first and foremost China, which was receiving all of the oil from Venezuela, except for the small amount from Chevron going to the US Gulf Coast refineries. So China is keeping a close eye, probably with a degree of concern, on what's happening in Venezuela, because they're seeing, even though it's a small element of their oil import supply chain under threat, you can't put this intervention toothpaste back into the tube. Now that we're doing things like quarantining oil exports and potentially toppling regimes, or at least leaders of oil exporting countries, the guys that are their customers, that are their importers of that oil, are going to be concerned. Well, Russia has a lot to lose because, first of all, Russian oil companies have been active in the Venezuelan oil industry. They do have a stake there. And if the United States is going to exert control and push adversaries out, then Russia could potentially lose access or have a diminished role to play in Venezuela's oil industry and its future. The second thing is the proliferation of supply risk from the Venezuelan theater of operations to other areas that directly affect Russia. Keep in mind that it's the same sanctioned oil tanker fleet that services all of the three sanctioned countries, Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. And a good portion of Russia's oil exports depend on that shadow fleet and the sanctioned part of the shadow fleet to move its oil to its remaining markets, which are basically India and China. And so if costs are going to increase for the sanctioned fleet because of what the United States is doing in Venezuela, those higher costs will spread to Russia, and Russia's going to have to lower its sale prices in order to clear the market with its buyers. It adds pressure for oil revenues in Moscow.